What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today we're going to discuss the second hero of the Fairy Tail collab, Lucy. I was really hyped for Lucy, to be honest, more so than I was hyped about Natsu, because I thought, well, she's a summoner, she has AoE stunts, that sounds absolutely great, and if she's really great, well, that is something we're going to dive into in this video. First of all, let's talk about how you get her. Well, there is the new dimensional call, we already discussed a little bit, so I will briefly sum it up. If you've missed yesterday's video, I strongly recommend that you check it out, because we have some very interesting information about dimensional heroes in general in there, but in general you get it from the dimensional call. To do dimensional call you need Fairy Tail dimensional invites, and those you either get from the trolley or you can buy them for 300 gems each. Or, next option, even especially if you wanna go for Lucy, you can actually play the Fairy Sonata event. In that event, you not only get the wonderful Ignited Resonance frame, that is actually a pretty cool frame, I love that, and but you can also get copies of Lucy. They are in those chests here. You can decide between either Temporal Essence for her or copies. I would strongly advise you go for copies, because that will probably be the easiest time ever to earn copies of her, and thus probably a very nice way to go for. And then you get the hero, and well, the hero is advertised as being recommended for PvP and AFK stages. So those are the areas that we are going to take a look at right now. So let's first take a look at AFK stages. Her kit gives her some advantages for this. The official recommendation is to use her in an Iron Comp. Have to say, not really that interesting. To me, it does work. Of course, she has done everything that adds to CC you can add to that. What I made here is a Lightbearer comp. This one I think is pretty cool. We have Smokey, we have Siren, we have Cassidy, and we have Hugin, and we can see how this team overall plays out. I usually manually cast the Siren ult just to pull the enemies together and have them kind of in the range of our Smokey, and the Cassidy ult you can manually cast. You can also just let her auto cast, honestly. Is good enough as long as you have a Siren ult line up to pull the enemies in. Hogan being our tank for this one, Lucy bringing AoE stunts, and the thing is, for Lucy, let me quickly cast that Siren ult for Lucy, she summons Aquarius, and Aquarius is a very, very insane summon, has 120% of her stats, as far as I remember, and casts those water swirls. And then after a while, she will also go into the Aquarius form. It's a little bit hard to spot, but she's in it right now. In that form, she gets a range of 10 tiles, usually it's only 3 tiles, which is rather annoying, I have to add. This 3-tile range often lets her move away a little bit from her allies. You can see she moved off the Hugin tile a little bit further to the front because she was too far away from the initial position of the allies. I think it would have really been nice for her to have like a range of maybe 5. And now I missed the Smokey ult. Very well played, Mr. Wraec. But we should still have enough damage nonetheless to clear this, and of course it's a wonderful opportunity to see a few more swirls of her. Her damage overall isn't bad. She has those AoE swirls, she casts those once she's in Aquarius form and Aquarius, and of course Aquarius as a summon can buff by summon specific effects like Flora Bells, for example, so that is also fairly interesting, and isn't as strong as I thought it would be. I'll be honest. Isn't as strong as I thought it would be. I thought it would be really great. Turns out for most of the gameplay, just buffing her in general, giving her attack boost through the charm effects of Hugin or Ulmus is just way better, and buffing her attack speed can also be fairly advantageous. So we can see over here that is really not bad damage. Out damaging my Crown Siren. Not an easy feat. She doesn't manage to achieve this on all of these stages. But right here, that worked fairly well. So isn't bad at all. The only problem with this, of course, not in this specific situation, but in general, we already discussed it yesterday, dimensional heroes in the way they work are a little bit annoying. Let's check this out on the next stage. Well, dimensional heroes aren't really part of any faction. They are part of the dimensional faction, which is their own. So you have, once you put a dimensional hero in your team, that really only leaves you one slot to put a hero in that isn't for the faction whose skill you're targeting. So if you want to have a Lightbearer skill, you need, and you want to use Lucy, then you have Lucy on the team plus 3 Lightbearer heroes, and there's only 1 hero that can come from another faction. That is very, very limiting. It's the same really when we go into battle and check out the normal stages. Here I had like a Chimera comp with Fresto in there. I'm not too sure this team could actually beat this stage. I'll be honest. No idea if that would work. We can try it. The thing is over here, it's also kind of tough to get like to a faction bonus. So if you want to get a faction bonus with a dimensional hero, well, you can't go for 3-dimensional heroes because there are only 2. So that really doesn't work. And then what you need to do is you can see like it also doesn't work like Celestial Hypergene heroes. With a Celestial Hypergene hero instead of a dimensional, this would have led to a faction bonus. Right now we don't have one. We can kind of check this out. So if we add Rainier, bam, you can see the faction bonus popped up. So they don't add to the faction bonus, which is a little bit annoying. If you build something Graveborn centered, you're kind of capped at 4 out of 5 there, which is pretty bad. The only way you can use a dimensional hero and get to a 5 out of 5 faction bonus is if you only use Celestial Hypergene units or other dimensional units. Then it's still possible to get to the 5 out of 5, but this is fairly annoying. This is really fairly annoying, to be honest. And inherently also disadvantage. If we check this out, we don't have a dimensional skill, we only have 2-dimensional heroes. So every time we try to activate a faction skill or try to get a faction bonus, the dimensional faction is at a disadvantage. This will likely stay the case until we have another dimensional release, another collab where we get maybe a 3rd or 4th hero from that faction. Then maybe it will be easier to activate them. But one thing that we see also, while Natsu has a skill that is specifically designed to be triggered when Lucy is defeated, you can see additionally if the allied Lucy is defeated, Natsu increases crit. There really has been no team where they worked well together. Which is a little bit sad. Partly because once you use Natsu and Lucy, the other heroes have to be from the same faction, and that really limits the viability of the things that you can do, and is rather annoying. I mean, we can potentially, if we wanted to, we could take out the Smokey and try to do something with Natsu in there. That would be an option, but Natsu in this composition would be pretty prone to being initially killed. Doesn't mean he would always be defeated, but we see how quickly he runs over there. Which is although pretty good, some nice stunts, we see Hugin. So it's not impossible that this works. It's just probably, for the most cases, not very good to have him that far in the front and to not have a healer on top of that. That makes the rest of your team rather squishy to just rely on Hugin shields. Lucy has shields too. Lucy can actually shield the weakest ally, and that is a very interesting ability, because it is an ability, I'll be honest, you often don't notice, and I was a little bit surprised when I tried to read up on her skills a little bit more, when I tried to get into the video and in the preparation of this, when I read her skills and I was like, oh yeah, there is like this shield skill in there that is apparently from the text super strong, and I never noticed during like the initial test where I just try to get a feeling of the hero, because that is the approach that I usually take, is I want to get a feeling for the hero first before I really dive into the skills and do the theory crafting. Just to put her in a few teams, see what she or he does, and just see what happens. And I was really surprised to see this shield. I noticed that there were shields, but I didn't ever consider them really as super powerful. Indeed, that is the case. We ran out of damage here. That is really, really sad that we weren't able to kill the Antandra with this team. Okay, damage-wise, somehow she managed to outdamage Natsu. No idea. But the shield, I wanna kind of throw you into the skill text a little bit. So we have the Aquarius form, so far so good. It is a little bit misleading, I have to say. You can see Aquarius has 120% of her max HP and 100% of her other stats, so it's a very, very strong summon, really. Strikes a 1-tile area, which I think is a little bit of a weird description. The 1-tile area, what they mean is 1 tile and the area around it. So the adjacent tiles get struck as well, from what I've seen. 300% damage is not really a whole lot, but if you consider combining that with something like Siren and you pull the enemies together, hit them, then you get to a decent amount of damage, and kind of explains what that is. Affected enemies are knocked into the air, stunned for 2 seconds, and the water swirl attack repeats every 10 seconds. It is a lot faster. You could just see that it is a lot faster. The idea of it only happening every 10 seconds is a little bit ludicrous, but because, well, we have a combination here. She has this form she can transform into Aquarius and does really the same thing there. Also this 300% draw on this swirl stuns him for 2 seconds, and it doesn't really say how often she does that. Don't know why. isn't there, but you could kind of get an idea of the frequency just when we initially showed the fight. So that is something that is fairly frequent, and you can get a good amount of stuns with it. It is not superb CC in that sense, but it is fairly good. The weird thing is, some people, or even I thought for a second, well, I said a melee hero because of this weird movement she has at the start. You know, we can maybe show it right here with this team. I don't know if this really works. Right now she stood here because the enemy was fairly fast over there. That's of course gloriously bad to show anything. But she quite often just runs to the enemy side. And then she has this second ability, which is a kick. And this makes her seem so much like a melee hero. And you're always like, no, don't run to the enemy, you are very, very squishy. Stop killing yourself with those attacks, that is horrible. And yeah, it can happen quite often. In this situation, she got to pretty low life. Was apparently able to recover. We see a few shields there on the enemy, partly from the twins, partly from her. As I said, the shield that she has as the one that she gives through her Mythic Plus, through her exclusive equipment to the weakest ally, that is a very, very strong shield because it grants an additional buff of 50 range def. And for that, probably, I mean, many people haven't really read the stats. Range def is a very, very strong stat, and pretty rare, honestly, in the game. Most of the time when you see a def buff, you see fist def or something. So now she outperformed Chimera because Chimera died early on. But the thing really is, this shield is pretty cool, and still you don't notice it. So like you can see right here at +10, it adds an extra 50 range def, which is a really, really good buff that you should definitely get. So +10 I would recommend, and the range def is listed here in the defensive stats. For every 1% that we have of it, it reduces the damage received from non-adjacent enemies, so enemies that aren't exactly in the tile next to you, by 1%. So with 50 range def, you have 50% damage reduction, which is really, really insane. So the hero that gets the shield from her gets really, really tanky to ranged heroes, which is pretty good. It's a pretty cool ability, honestly. And then again, I have to say, like, it is her Mythic Plus ability, and if we don't have the +10, and just take a look at that, Aquarius or Lucy in Aquarius form, which, by the way, they both have similar skill sets, so it's like pretty much the same, can grant shields. So we can grant a few shields, which is nice. It doesn't feel like super sustain. It doesn't feel like you really grant your team survivability. It always feels like you still need a healer. But it is certainly nice to have some extra shields on top of that. And that is something that we used in the team that I just showed, to have like Smokey, Hugin, and her to give shields. It is like quite a ton of sustain. But I kind of feel like for a Mythic Plus ability, I always expect a little bit more. I expect like something that hits huge. Not all heroes have that, and some heroes that don't have an insane Mythic Plus are still very good, but I was kind of disappointed to see that on a collab hero. Nonetheless, can be a pretty good hero. For AFK stages, well, I'll be honest with you guys. And I saved this. Maybe we can show a gameplay. Like, we can probably take a look at this damage card, for example, that we don't really have to go into it, as she didn't die during this fight. Nonetheless, take a look at the damage when Chimera really lives. We had a fight right now with this team where Chimera died. In this fight, she lived and out-damaged her by far. So Chimera's damage potential is a lot higher, not lower, than that of Lucy, and that alone might probably be reason for a lot of people to go for Chimera instead, honestly. But that already had me pretty disappointed. And then I noticed that in the most cases, even this team that I made, the one where we had formerly had Lucy in there, just gets better when you place her with Bonnie. And the problem was really, I noticed that this was the case for a lot of teams. Every time you use Lucy, it's usually better to just take her out of the team and put Bonnie in there, which is a pretty sad realization, but both of which have stun. Bonnie has a very, very nice debuff with her aging that also reduces the haste. Bonnie doesn't really add to the survivability of the team in the way that she doesn't grant shields, such as Lucy, which Lucy can do fairly well, but for that you get more damage. Usually you get a haste debuff, which is really, really nice. and you get AoE stuns that are not bound to a single area, because, well, Bonnie will target every hero with aging, no matter if that is one of the enemies that just escaped. That sometimes happens, that you have maybe a shark here or something that is immune to CC and just doesn't stay within the closed circle that your Siren creates, or just is outside of the bulkhead of the enemies, and that is the area where Lucy targets. So targeting in that sense is a little bit weird. She just targets the area with the most enemies, throws her stuff in there, and if then one hero escaped that area, well, then she just won't hit them. So that is something that Bonnie does a little bit better than her, and that is also a little bit of a problem. Let's go a little bit into PvP. And I had problems with that. And I really had problems with that. That is the guide from the community guide team, and I want to show you this because, well, it kind of also demonstrates the problem a little bit when the recommended arena team is just basically an iron team. Because one thing that those iron teams really do is they're mostly plug and play, and really Lucy doesn't have that much synergy with an iron team. The only synergy she has if you want to constantly CC the enemy, so for a very quick burst. That is something that you could do, but a team like this would of course only work on the offensive, so that was something that I already didn't want to do. This is kind of cool, like a Graveborn team I thought was pretty interesting, but what I tried was mostly more on the Supreme Arenas area, and by the way, also up here for the AFK stages, mostly iron teams and just adding her in there, which for me just didn't work out very well. But no hate to the community guide team. These guys are doing their best, really, and I have to say I also really struggle to come up with any teams for her because, well, she's kind of underperforming, to be honest, in this meta. So let's take a little bit of a look at PvP. Try to build a little bit of a Graveborn team around her. We have double sustain frontier with Cullen Ludovic, just to keep us alive. I guess we could equal out the Paragon a little bit more. I think we are going to do that. Just going to put in our Fresto. That should probably help. Going to go like this, because one thing that is really annoying about her is that 3 range also in PvP, because she has one very strong ability that should really allow her to cast her ult super fast, and that is that she has 700 initial energy here, and if you take a look at the beginning of the fight, you will see that her energy bar is almost completely full from the start. But because she has this range of 3, the first thing she will try to do if she's in this position will be to run forward. So you can kind of place her 1 tile further to the front, I guess. That will limit the range that she needs to walk. Also at the other, well, then again, kind of don't want to walk her outside of the range of Callan, but that will mean she walks for a little bit before she really does some casting, before she really does some stuff that grants her energy. Let's take a look at this fight. Put it on half speed. She even ran outside of the range of the Callan there. Oh, that is horrible. That is really horrible. Losing HP there. During the ult animation, did you see how long this ult animation was? Oh my god, that was horrible. She died during the time of her ult animation to enemy Bonnie dot. I have to see that again. That was so sad. But that is the average experience. She ran out of the range of Callan, she ran out of the range of Ludovic, and then has her super long ult animation and just died to Bonnie dot in the meantime. Glorious. Great. And somehow she manages to not only run out of range of such heroes, she also somehow manages to not even have the fastest ult sometimes. She has 700 initial energy that should put her up ahead of something like Siren, and still Siren can in many situations get the faster ult, which is a little bit sad. We can try that again, maybe just replace 1 hero there. We'll even move her a little bit to the front, and then we will see if it's possible that we outspeed with Siren. Let's just do this. Place him behind her. Siren has a range of 6, which is really nice, because that means that those enemies are already within his range. That means he won't move. That means you can place him behind the Hugin. That means he already starts. And was faster, of course. I mean, we have P4 here. But yeah, with P4 Siren, the fight is already over before she even gets to cast her full ult animation, which is atrociously long. Atrociously long. So the thing was, I couldn't really find a very good way to use her in PvP. We can try the team from the community guide team. I mean, Andre doesn't have any counter to Iron, and if an enemy has that, you can try to kinda hit him with an iron team, so let's copy that. So I've never tried this. I would assume it would work well against this, also because we have a ton of Paragon. And I also would assume that Lucy will do nothing to actually make this work. I reckon we're going to hit, yeah, that is what I assumed. We get to see the ult. I guess that's something, because that Ludovic survived. Yeah, with the Paragon advantage really doesn't make any sense. We can try this again against somebody else, but this was just like iron damage. So it was a little bit faster in this situation. Okay, I found ourselves an enemy with a little bit more Paragon, and adapted the team a little bit to work better for the map, so we are going to use that. We are still going to use Confining Spell, and let's see if Lucy can do something nice. Now, got countered on the Iron, which isn't too bad. We want to focus on the Lucy. Let's see if she can do something. Lucy's now going to summon. Our Iron is already dead at this point, and the time has already run out. Surprisingly long that she took there, and really didn't know. And I tried this in Arena as well, different teams already in the stream and everything. It's just no meta for this. Even less so often meta really than for Natsu. For Natsu we had different teams that kind of worked and had a chance to work. Right now for her I don't really see anything, because well, if you really take a look at the PvP meta units, and we take a look at something like an Athalia, there is no comparison. Like, we have super fast damage here with Athalia, and with Lucy we have very clunky, because of the low range, movement. We have there's still a rather slow ult for 700 initial energy. Surprisingly enough, I don't know how she manages to do that, 700 energy and still the ult is slow. And not really a whole lot to add there. So Lucy, and I don't want to say it angers me to say this, but yeah, sadly quite underperforming. And so in that regard, spectacularly, well, a bad release. I am a bit disappointed about this, I have to say this. I was a little hyped for Lucy, I wanted to see her work well, and really in AFK stages, okay, you can make some use of her, but in the end Bonnie's better, and then in PvPs she sees no success at all, because, well, if they just made her 5 range, honestly, if they made her 5 range it would be cool. It gets fixed once she's in Aquarius form, her range extends to 10 tiles, but really, what does that help at that point anymore? Like, at that point, she did cast her ult, she did cast a few abilities, she did detect the enemy, and she already ran to it. And the initial running is the disadvantage. So having that kind of makes her obsolete. And this is an obsolete ability, doesn't help you at all. I mean, what do you want to hit? At the point when she's done running, she will be nearly close to the middle of the map, and with a 3 tile range you can already hit basically everything from there. So there won't be much more moving from that point on. And she already ran away from like a Hugin tile or something, that or from an advantageous position. And that makes her feel squishy as well, by the way, because she just can't stay in the back and cast her stuff from there. That is why you can make a Siren survive, and you struggle to make a Lucy survive. And that is a little bit sad. Well, yeah, okay, recommendations. You will get this hero for free into Mythic Plus, which is cool. That is really cool. You will get it to there. I reckon for Ravage Realm she will add a lot of survivability. We have the range death buff here, which is really nice. We have additional shields. She will add damage for that. Will be pretty great. She won't do a whole lot for you in Dream Realm. And at the current meta, I don't see her doing anything in AFK stages, really, because we will just use other teams and probably, I mean, I will use her for fun, probably with the Lightbearer team that we saw. I'll show you guys this one more time, because I think it's pretty cool. It's kind of fun to use that. It's a little bit clunky. Not you. You go away. We need the smoky in there. Like this. It's a little bit clunky, and you have 2 ults that you kind of want to manual cast, but I still love it somehow. And it's kind of fun, but obviously, as I already said, you can kind of take her out and put Bonnie in there, and the team will do fairly well. So, not even sure. And yeah, so this was kind of everything. I don't really recommend you summoning her further. In regards to the renting system that we also have, the renting system that is going to come up, because there was the question already by many, what happens after the event ends? Well, after the event ends, you will no longer be able to summon Lucy and Natsu. That is not possible due to legal reasons. And then instead they will put a renting system in place. That is already the same system that is in AFK Arena. And basically you can rent this hero from a friend. You will get him at the lowest possible upgrade level. for example, Epic or something, and then you are able to buy upgrades for this hero with gems, and you can upgrade the hero then to, assumingly, Paragon 4, with a lot more gem cost. So it will be rather expensive to do this, but you can still upgrade the hero nonetheless. And the tip that was confirmed today by support, very much so, thank you to Residuum for sending me this. He sent me a support answer that confirmed that you will be able to buy the heroes after the event, and that you don't need to rent them if you own them. So if you now have your Mythic Plus Lucy and you go ahead and get yourself a copy of Natsu, which you can very easily do actually. You just go into the event, you get into the store, you play everything, and then you will get your few summons there. And if you have a few gems on top of that, you're almost guaranteed to get a copy. And then you have a copy of Natsu, you have a copy of Lucy, and you don't need to rent them. If you want to go for the top spots in Ravage Realm, which I can understand if you want, yeah, well, I mean, you will definitely need Natsu. That is a hero that is available for the, well, is definitely in the top teams right now. And Lucy is in the Sylvan squad. I reckon she has pretty good chances to do very well there as well. So probably going to need her as well. So for the top spots, if you want to make sure you are in the top 20, well, I mean, you might not even have a choice other than to summon those two heroes to Supreme Plus. This time Supreme Plus is for this wonderful piece there, and also, by the way, you can get the headwear, and you can zoom in, and you can make them your own head, which is kind of funny. So yeah, that is another story in itself, because you have this immediate use right now. For the long-term viability, I just probably would work against FOMO by having one copy of each. But either way, even if you weren't even playing when this event is there, you are able to get those heroes later, even if it is as a higher gem cost. And if they turn out then in the next season as being as some form of advantageous, then you are able to get them. So far, I definitely would recommend staying with the event, playing Fairy Sonata, and then getting your copies of them, getting them to Mythic Plus. Then, one last word still. As always, the sponsor for this video is Lootbar. Lootbar offers you cheap dragon crystals you can buy there, where they have a pack deal for Natsu and Lucy, which includes 6,000 dragon crystals, 6,300 dragon crystals, which is pretty nice. And you can get all of the items there, and this is a very, very cheap way to buy dragon crystals, because not only do you get them at a discount here, especially if you use the login top-up over there, which I can recommend. I recently tried that. You can see pretty cheap, 72.25, because I have a discount coupon still. Otherwise it's around 80 USD for 3,000 dragon crystals. And also you support this channel with that, and by doing this through the link down in the description, you get yourself a 3% discount coupon and an 8% discount coupon that you can use for your purchases. So that is definitely a very great thing to do, and I fully recommend checking them out. Only had good experiences with them. So yeah, that sadly brings us to the conclusion that Lucy really isn't, well, the hero of the moment. You get her for free to Mythic Plus. If you want, you can of course max her at Supreme Plus. I don't think that's necessarily a wrong thing to do, but really going much further on this hero doesn't seem worth it at all. And you are better off just investing your resources and investing your gems in Chimera. Getting yourself a Chimera will be much stronger, and she is a really very great hero, and also probably a requirement for Ravage Realm, so that really doesn't change a whole lot. And getting a Chimera is probably the better way than investing heavily in those collab heroes, which is quite sad. I expected them to make this stronger, but then again, I thought a little bit about it, and maybe I can share this thought as well. They kind of made it without a shitstorm this time, and I didn't expect that. I thought somebody would take offense in anything that they do, and there would be a giant shitstorm, but it didn't happen. So I guess they did well in that regard. The heroes aren't too overpowered. They aren't super underpowered as well. Lucy, yeah, is like on the brink of falling into super underpowered, I guess. Natsu is pretty decent. So I guess from that perspective, they did well, which is, I think, I find that confusing. But you can write about this down in the comments. With that, I wish you a great day, and we'll see us in the next one.